a lot of times when we hear like producer, people don't really know what that means. And what was your journey to producing things?
Well, I was and still am an actor. And then during my acting career, I think I've been out of school for about 8 years, and I was becoming disenchanted with the kind of roles that I was being sent in for, and even some of the roles that I booked, and some of the stories that were being greenlit. And I'm like, well, I know a lot of really talented writers, and I think that this mediocrity that I'm seeing, I can do mediocre. In fact, I think I can do a Far Side better than mediocre. So I said, you know what? I'm going to start producing. No clue what they did, how they got paid, what you need to know. I mean, zero. I hadn't even read a book yet, and I'm like, I'm a producer. And the universe conspired to bring projects my way, and I thought I was going to do a play first. And then as it turns out, I ended up doing a feature film first, which became Night Catches Us with Anthony Mackie and Kerry Washington and Wendell Pierce. So, and that was a heralding experience. When I was done with that, I'm like, okay, that's it. I'm done. I'm not producing anything else. This is far too hard. I'm not having it. I'm going to go back to acting. And then I met a friend. He was in school. He had a master's thesis. I read it. I was like, oh my God, I got to tell this story. And I was right back in it.
Yeah, it kind of gets you like that.
It does.
Never-ending cycle of trappery. Because making art is great.
It is, and I'm a storyteller, so if I find great story, then I feel compelled to have to tell it.
Yeah. What's the difference in producing for like an entity and then like producing as an individual doing a film or a show?
On Broadway, there are two classes of producers. There's the lead producer at the top. So if you open your playbill, there's going to be 1, 2, or 3 names at the top above title, and there's going to be this block of names which are below them, which are called co-producers. And for most of my career, I've been a co-producer, which is to say that I bring money to the table, and then I am part of a consulting team of all the co-producers that the lead producers present what we're doing for the advertising and marketing campaigns and promotion and sponsorship and social media and all of those things. But at the end of the day, it's not the co-producers who make the decision, it's the lead producers. So this year, for the first time, after 10 years in the business, I've become a lead producer. And I've become a lead producer not on 1, not on 2, not on 3, but on 4 shows in the same year because, well, I just love punishment. And I will say that lead producers are the people who get everything done. They have to do the heavy lifting. They have to option the product. They have to find, the support staff to make it happen, which is to say, the attorneys. They have to hire the advertising, marketing campaigns, press, PR, social media. You have to hire the cast. You have to find the theater. You have to work with and find the crew and bring all that together. So as a lead producer, it's a lot of work because everything stops at your desk. So if no one else takes care of it, then you have to take care of it. So it's a lot of responsibility, but at the same time, it's a lot of control, and you get to, express your creativity through the work that you're doing. And because I'm an actor and a storyteller, for me, the creative side is the most important thing. Yes, I can read a spreadsheet. Yes, I can look at some numbers. Yes, I can interpret it. But that's not what gets me up in the morning. What gets me up in the morning is great storytelling. So I often focus, as certainly a lead producer or any project that I'm developing, helping to get that piece to its best self so that we can put it on Broadway or off Broadway or in a regional theater. So that's what gets me going as a storyteller is the creative side. Some other people are good about, they can deliver the show on time, on budget, and it's great, but they may not have a clear appreciation for the storytelling and how and what a story needs to take it to the next level.
You've worked on some pretty incredible projects. Ain't Too Proud, Porgy and Bess, Vanya, Sonia, and Masha and Spike. Actually, you worked on a show that I got my first legal drink at. So I turned 21 when I was in New York. And I went to Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder. And my friend was like, I'm going to get you a drink at the show because it's legal now. And I was like, yeah. And so she got me a drink, and it was funny. She came back and she was like, I tried to get the show drink, but they were only having it, like, serving it on the main floor. So I just asked for alcohol and gave me something. So why were they only serving it on the main floor? I expect you to have the answer to that.
Actually, I have absolutely no idea why they were serving it only on the main floor. I didn't even know that was the case. So I can't help you, bro. I can't help you. There's nothing I can say.
What do you look for in a project initially to be like, I'm going to put my name on that as co-producer or lead producer? Like, what does it have to have for you?
Good question. Well, first it has to be a good story, because if it's not a great story, then it's not worth putting my time and energy and effort into. But having a great story doesn't mean that it's going to be presented and be the best that it could be. There's a lot of stops along the way. But once I just determine that it is in fact a great story, then there are three things that I look for in a project. One, that it is about underrepresented communities, and not to say that I only do those shows, but predominantly those are the kinds of shows that I do. A Gentleman's Guide was clearly not one of them. But I saw that show and I thought, this is a great piece of theater. This is fun, funny, engaging songs that want to put your feet to.
It was a great musical, and sometimes we need a great musical as well.
That's right. And so that's why I went on that. But in terms of the three, it has to be about underrepresented communities. It has to have high artistic integrity, which is to say that the people who are working on it are going to make it the best that it can be, and it has to be commercially viable. And so that's the tripod on which I assess every project. And if I can find a project where all three are present, then I jumps on it. I get on it and say, okay, now I'm willing to put my name on it and work for the next 2, 3, 4, 5, however many years it's going to take to bring that story to pass. Producing for Broadway is not a sprint. It is a long distance run. And if you're doing a musical, it's even longer than if you're doing a play. Because if you're doing a play, you can start with a writer and a director, and you can go a long way. But of course, if you have a musical, you have to have a writer who's doing the book writer. Then you have to have the composer who's producing the music. Then you have a lyricist who's doing the lyrics. Sometimes they can overlap. And then you have the director. And then you have to try all these songs out, and which ones work, which ones don't, which one move the story forward, which ones don't move the story forward. What order do they need to go in? Is this consistent with what the book is saying? It just takes years longer to create a musical because of that.
I've been talking to a lot of people in this current moment about like pipelining. They're like, I'm like, we keep talking about like what we didn't do, or like you're going through all these racial bias trainings and having these conversations, but no one's talking about creating a pipeline. No one's talking about like, how do we actually pull those folks up and like not only teaching them these skills, but provide them space to learn and grow in them. So not that you have to solve all the world's problems right now, but like, what can a pipeline structure look like to you in any, I guess, theatrical capacity or entertainment capacity, but primarily as a producer? Because I feel like that's a real place of power, and I think that there needs to be more of us in those spaces to help create the stuff we need to see.
I totally agree. I can tell you what I do. A big part of my effort, because as important as the storytelling in diverse communities is the diversity of the industry. So I mentor. I have 5 Black women who I'm mentoring to be producers on Broadway. And if they all become producers, they will almost double the number of Black producers on Broadway. And I'm just one guy. I mean, imagine if a number of producers, Black, white, or whatever, said, you know what, I'm going to take 1, 2, or 3 people on, and I'm going to mentor them to be Broadway producers. We could make a huge leap, because there's so few of us right now. To go from 6 to 20, it's going to take time, because one has to develop as a producer. But if we start now, then I know that I will have these co-producers be ready to take on a leadership role in 1 show or 2 shows or in 3 shows. So that's the pipeline. Another thing that we can do as producers is that we can go and find investors in communities of color. If they really love the business, they will become co-producers, of shows. And then you're a producer. And then if you really love that, then you may become a lead producer as I have done for shows, and now you're in the driver's seat. You are part of the gatekeepers that decide what actually gets seen on Broadway and what actually does not get seen.